Good day, I'm Brian Farrell, and welcome to PACE IT's session on common network security issues. Today I'm going to be discussing security issues caused by misconfiguration, and then I will conclude on other network security issues. With that, let's go ahead and begin this session. Of course, I'm going to begin by talking about security issues caused by misconfigurations. It's easy to assume that a network is secured from threats, while in reality it may be very vulnerable. A network may actually be vulnerable because of a misconfigured security setting or because of a common practice within an organization. A network may not be as secure as you think due to the ever-changing threat landscape. Nefarious hackers are continually seeking new exploits that they can use to breach network security, including possible misconfigurations in network security settings. These security settings may have been correct at the time that they were set up, but due to the changing landscape, they may be considered a misconfiguration now. A misconfigured firewall and/or access control list may cause a security issue. These can result in three different categories of security issues. Traffic that should be blocked isn't, allowing threats in. Traffic that shouldn't be blocked is. This can prevent the receiving of vital updates. Or all traffic is blocked. This isn't necessarily a security issue per se, but it is still a misconfiguration. And it is possible for a junior network administrator to just remove the access control list or firewall to allow the traffic to start flowing again, which is a security issue. To protect against a misconfigured firewall or ACL, thoroughly test them before putting them into action. A misconfigured application may become a security threat. A web application that does not perform proper validation of input may lead to a buffer overflow attack. This may lead to a successful attack on the web server on which it is hosted. Thoroughly testing applications before placing them into service will mitigate the threat. Unpatched operating system or firmware will become a major security issue quickly. The manufacturer of operating systems and hardware firmware will often produce security patches or fixes for vulnerabilities as they become known. An unpatched OS or firmware becomes very vulnerable in short order and may become a threat to the network. Most software makers have an updating service. Subscribing to that service will help to mitigate the threat. Open TCP IP ports are a security issue. Open ports on networks are listening for requests for or by services, applications, or protocols. All open ports are a security vulnerability, and there are 65,535 possible ports that may be open. A best practice for network security is to specifically close all unnecessary ports to harden a network. The TACACS Plus and Radius services are often used to authenticate devices and users on networks. A misconfiguration on either may lead to a security issue that allows malicious users to be authenticated to use network resources. Thoroughly reviewing the configuration of authentication services will help to mitigate the problem. In addition, all default local accounts should be disabled. These default local accounts may present a slight opening for a malicious user to exploit authentication services. Active default usernames and passwords are an issue. Almost all devices and applications come with default usernames and passwords to ease the setup process. If left active, these defaults create a security issue, as they tend to be well known or are easy to find through simple research. A best practice is to disable all default usernames and passwords after setting up the device or application. It's time to move on to other network security issues. First up are malicious users. Malicious users may be the single biggest security issue facing any network, and they will fall into one of two categories. There is the untrusted malicious user. This is an outside entity that has exploited a security weakness to gain access to network resources, as in a hacker who has breached a database's security features to gain access to valuable information. Even worse than the untrusted malicious user is a trusted malicious user. This is a person or entity that has been explicitly granted access to network resources that then exploits this trusted position for malicious purposes. And they are harder to guard against because you've already granted them access inside of your defenses. A best practice is to review log files on a regular basis to see what resources are being accessed and by whom to help maintain security. Packet sniffers are also a security issue. Packet sniffers examine network traffic at a very basic level and can be used to help in the administration of a network. But packet sniffers may also be used by malicious users to see what protocols and activities are allowed on the network. This may help them in further attacking the network. Then there is malware. It is usually defined as malicious software that has the intent of causing harm. As a category, malware covers any code-based threat to a network or system. Examples of malware include viruses, trojans, and spyware. To protect against malware, anti-malware applications should be running on every device. To be proactive, end-user education should also be in place to teach them to recognize the dangers that malware presents. The Internet Control Messaging Protocol itself may become a security issue. ICMP can be a valuable tool for diagnosing issues on networks, but it can also become a security vulnerability. ICMP can be exploited in a denial of service type of attack. ICMP can also be used to redirect legitimate users to a new malicious default gateway, possibly resulting in loss of data or sensitive information. It is now a best practice to deny ICMP requests on a router's outward-facing interface. Denial of service or distributed denial of service attacks are becoming more common. In an attempt to bring down a network or website, malicious users will often send thousands or hundreds of thousands of requests for service. The attacker's goal is to make that resource unreachable by legitimate users. Many modern firewalls and other network appliances have been configured to recognize the signature of such an attack and can take steps to mitigate the results. When creating applications, developers often create backdoors into the programs. Backdoors are a method of accessing an application or service while bypassing the normal authentication process. Unfortunately, these backdoors are sometimes left open after the development process has been completed. Once these become known, they can be exploited. In most cases, the application is listening on a specific port for a request for access. The best mitigation technique is to close all unnecessary ports on a network. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? Then there's jamming. All wireless networks use radio frequency channels to transmit data on the network. It is possible to create enough interference on the RF channel that it is no longer usable on the network. An attacker will often use jamming when performing a denial of service type attack. However, it can also be used to perform an evil twin type attack. By jamming the legitimate channel, the attacker is hoping that users will switch to the channel that the rogue access point is transmitting on. Many of the modern networking standards and devices employ techniques to mitigate the threat of jamming, as in both 802.11n and 802.11ac are difficult to jam standards. Then there is banner grabbing. Many network devices display banners when users are signing into or requesting services from network devices. These banners can impart information about the type of device or the type of service that is being requested. This information may be used by a hacker to research possible exploits. The best practice is to disable all unnecessary services and banners on network devices. That concludes this session on common network security issues. I began by talking about security issues caused by misconfiguration, and then I concluded with other network security issues. On behalf of PACE IT, thank you for watching this session, and I hope I get to do another one soon.